So you might want to make your croquis look a little less like robots and a little more like humans. So now we're going to flesh them out. So usually how I do this is I start up here at the neck region or the clavicle, and then I work my way down along the balance line down to the feet. And then once I get down there and finish that all up, then I'll go back up to the arms and work my way down from there. So I'm going to start with the traditional croquis, and then we'll go and I'll do a little demo on my croquis. So first what you do is you go in and you just, what you're basically doing when you flesh out a croquis is you're just smoothing out these lines, and you're creating one solid figure from these series of shapes that we've created. So what you're going to do is you're going to take this line and you're going to go down towards that box that we've created for the shoulder, that line, and then you're going to round it up and around those other circles to create the shoulder lines themselves. And so after this, after you've kind of smoothed that out, and if you've tweaked any asymmetry within the croquis, you can do that as you go along. So I'm just putting in a little clavicle here. That's just kind of a stylistic choice I usually make when doing my croquis. And it also just kind of helps create a little bit more depth and realistic appearance to the croquis itself. And then once I get that in, I take the center of that shoulder circle and I'll draw a line smoothing out along the bust. And then once I get to the bottom of that bust, I will just make an angle from the bottom of the bust back into the waist. So there's a little bit of a point right there. But if you realize at some point that you have two body parts that are asymmetrical, or your knees are too big, or your bust is in the wrong spot, you can go back and change it. That's kind of, this whole process is like trial and error. Like even now I will be placing parts on my croquis and then I'll go back and fix them, or something will be asymmetrical. It's just all about kind of, looking back at your croquis as you're working and kind of smoothing out those errors that you might have. So as I step off my soapbox, I'm going to smooth out the hips on this croquis. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of follow that straight line a little bit from the 3 to 4 mark. I might come out a little bit towards the end, but definitely at that 4 mark, you want to have the widest point of your hips. After you lay that in, I just go in and I make like a little tiny horizontal line in the middle of that trapezoid for the crotch, so I can kind of figure out how wide to make my thighs. As I start laying in my legs, I'm going to take that hip out a little bit, or the thigh, because those legs are not going straight up and down, but rather they're standing a little bit wider, just to keep balance on the croquis. So what you're going to do is you're going to make a little smooth curve from that hip down towards the thigh. And I'm going to make my knee just a little bit smaller here. Just want to tweak that. And then I'm going to connect it at that knee bone. Then when I'm doing a center facing croquis, I usually kind of lay in the same part of the body on both sides, and then I'll move to the next part just so I make sure that they're kind of more symmetrical. Another thing to note is that with thighs, we have this bone called a femur right in the middle of our thigh, and so with the shape it goes out and then kind of towards the knee it goes back in just a little bit. That's something to note. Then we'll go and flesh the inside of the thigh. So you might notice that the largest part of your thigh is about 2 inches down from the crotch in the inseam. So you want to make sure that you depict that. So we do like a large curve right under the crotch, and then we will bring it back in towards the knee, and then actually at the knee it curves out a little bit again. So while I'm finishing sketching this up, I just want to mention that stylizing the leg in a croquis, or making it longer, or kind of making it really thin, or changing the shape of it a little bit, is something that I would encourage you guys to do, because like I said earlier, there's less design distortion in the leg because just isn't much detail around the thighs and the knees and the calves, right? And once again, having those really long legs on your croquis will create a really graceful movement that might be really well suited for stuff that you are designing, especially if you're designing something like evening wear or dresses or really feminine clothing. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about anatomy when I get down to this calf and this shin region, right? So you guys can go home and you can tell your parents that you learned more about anatomy and that you're basically a nursing student, okay? So what I want to talk about is the fibula and the tibia. You got these two bones just hanging out in your calf, and they create a lot of shape that a lot of people don't notice. So you have this fibula that creates this curve out from the knee on the outside of the leg down and towards the shin. And so what I like to do is I like to take this curve out until about the 0.7, maybe somewhere around there. You can make it higher or lower, it's not super important, and then curve it back into that 8 point, and then from there I'll take it pretty much just straight down to the ankle. And so that's something that is really cool that a lot of people don't notice about the leg until they enter nursing school, and then they're like, well, I know my fibula, my tibia, and now you can say the same thing about yours. But seriously, do not try to tell nursing students that you know more about anatomy than them, because they will come after you. Anyways, while I am filling in this other fibula, I'm going to talk about how cool it is, right? So I kind of forgot about it after that one episode of Hannah Montana where she wears her bra on the outside of her shirt. And then she makes up the cool song about all the different bones during that bone test, and maybe she got expelled or something like that. I really don't remember that episode fully, but anyways, I digress. I am gonna just fill that in, and now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go in and we're gonna fill in the tibia. So this puppy, she makes up the shin, not really the calf. So anyways, to draw in this calf, you want to go in and you are going to take that line inwards under the knee circle a little bit, and then it's going to go back out and around, and it's going to kind of hit its max point at around that 7 mark, but it's going to be lower than the fibula. I'm just too excited about this. So you're going to take that fibula and the tibia or whatever, you're going to make those lines, and then you're going to do it on the other side. You're going to do the same exact thing. And you want to make sure so it goes in under that knee circle a little bit, back out around over that 7 mark, and then back in towards the ankle. And man, oh man, when you get that calf area right on your croquis, it just hits different, man. It looks so beautiful on a good croquis. So there's just a list of things that are okay to say in the fashion program that just aren't okay to say in other ones. And if you haven't started your own list yet, well, there's your first thing. Calves are cool, right? Write it down. Don't forget it. Fibula and tibia. Let's move on to the ankles. I don't know the exact bone structure here, but I believe it's also the tibia. It creates your ankle bone. So, fun fact, the inside part of your ankle, the inside angle of your ankle, I don't think that's the term for it. It's higher than the outside part. So the little bump on the inside of your ankle is going to be higher than the little bump on the outside if you really want to get that strategic with your anatomy on your croquis. Knock yourself out. I like to just do little diamonds at the bottom of my leg to create the ankles, and you can do that too. I'm not gonna tell you one thing or another, but I will tell you that I'm not going to do those whole feet. And so what I usually do when I flesh out my feet is I just go around and I just, smooth out that little raindrop shape. If you want to fill in the feet and make toes and stuff and kind of really get into that, knock yourself out. Who am I to judge? But you might want to make a little triangle around the bottom of the foot to kind of lay that in there. But I will talk about hands and feet another day. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go into the bicep. So what you're going to do is you're going to make this little raindrop, upside down raindrop, but it's smooth on all the, it's basically an oval. Just make an oval. In your bicep region, you're going to leave some room on either side of the bicep on that line, just so that you have room to kind of create that bump, and then it'll smooth back down around the elbow, I don't know what to say while else I'm drawing this. You can make them bigger if you want. Usually they're very small on a croquis because when we are drawing croquis, usually they are very petite women, and so having these bodybuilder biceps on a petite croquis might freak out the audience a little bit, but you do you. Anyways, I'm smoothing out the line between the shoulder circle and this bicep, and then I'm going to follow that oval downwards to the end of that, and then I'll create a little curve that goes out and around and to the elbow, and then I'll just kind of smooth it out around the elbow. And thanks to this really cute concept called perspective, we need to make sure that our forearms are laying in front of our biceps. And so in order to do that, I just do little horizontal lines through that elbow circle, and I curve them up a little bit because we do have perspective going on here. Now, that's a different rabbit hole I will take you down in the basic garment drawing video. Are you guys super excited for that one? No more anatomy lessons, but I do have some really hot takes on folds and wrinkles, so get ready for that. Anyways, I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna fill in the bicep on the other arm. I don't have any other words for this. I'm just doing the same curve on the other side, making sure I follow that bicep oval all the way down to that elbow where you do see perspective. And once I get down to the bottom of this, you better get ready. We're going to talk about forearms, okay? Well, we're going to talk about the inside of the bicep, and then we'll talk about forearms. I think. I don't know. We'll see when we get there. Okay, guys, check out my arm and my Apple Watch tan line. So there's this curve that goes from my elbow outwards a little bit and then down to my wrist. So we are going to depict that. I didn't look up the bone for this, but I probably should have because I was getting really cocky with my calf structure. But hey, we all pick favorites, right? So anyways, we're going to take this curve out from the elbow and then down to the wrist. And I'm done complicating things. We're just going to take a straight line from that elbow down to the wrist. Now we're just taking it's seriously just a straight line from the elbow up into that armpit. It's going to go behind that line between the shoulder and the bust, but that's really all it is, guys. It's not complicated. Do not complicate this, okay? It's just the underside of a bicep. And would you guys look at that? We are done. Okay, I'm still tweaking, and I probably will be tweaking for the next 20 minutes, but we look like we are done. And that is beautiful. How do you guys like your croquis? Do you like them? Do they look good? I'm so excited to see your guys' croquis. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and I'm going to flesh out my croquis, and I'm going to show you guys because you just haven't gotten enough of me. But I'm going to speed it up because I can't just take you through the whole process again and keep you entertained. There's only so much humor in my social battery, so let's just get into it. Okay, we're in voiceover mode, so what you're going to do is you are going to smooth out that neck and clavicle region, just like we did with the first one. And I'm going to throw in a little clavicle just for detail, just to block it in, I guess. I'm doing the same thing. I'm taking the middle of that shoulder circle and I'm taking a line down to the bust, and I'm going to follow the circle all the way until that point where it meets the rib cage, and then I'm just going to take a straight line down to the waist. And then I will smooth out that area between the waist and the hips, and then I will go out and around and I will make myself some big hips. From here, I am going to talk about a line for a minute, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And I'm going to take the line, and I usually take the line to the center of that circle, and then I make like a little diamond shape around the knee on both sides, obviously, and then I'll erase it, and I will go in and I will make the line on the outside of my leg, doing the fibula. I make sure to include the fibula. I never forget the fibula, guys. Never. And then I take my curve in a little bit sooner. It's a little bit more dramatic. And then I do the same thing on the other side. And after that, I will go in, I'll make that little crotch line, and then I lay in some undies because, you know, just for modesty's sake. So what I do is when I make this underwear line, I actually just take that curve and I continue it down to create the inside of that thigh, and then I curve it back inwards. That's why I did the underwear. I was kind of confused for a second. I kind of forgot why. So, with the inside of the normal croquis thigh, it kind of goes out a little bit, but with mine, I just start it at its widest point and then I take it inwards. And then once I take it into the knee, I will go in and I will, I'll throw in that calf and that tibia. You know me and my lower leg structure. Once I get those in, you guys can see that my ankles kind of just turn into points, and then I'll just make a little diamond shape at the bottom, just like I did for the knees. And then after that, I will go in and I will fix the feet a little bit. I'll position them however I feel needed. If they're supposed to be sideways or straight forward, I'll do that then. And I will continue to do that. Yup. Okay, let's keep it moving, Jen. And after that, I'll go in and I will make my little bicep, and I make my bicep ovals just a little bit skinnier than I do on the normal croquis. I make everything a little bit thinner. I kind of pinch that sucker in. So once I'm done with that, I will go in. I'll still make that curve in the forearm, and still the straight line up to the bicep and behind that armpit line, behind the bust and behind the armpit. After that, I'll go out and around, and I'll do the same thing on the other side, guys. Nothing new over here, just a different perspective. And then I go in and I tweak things again, and then I'm done. Look at that. That was so fast. Speedy over here. And then I talk for a little bit, but that's not anything new. No, like you guys, you thought I was kidding. I'm not. I have deleted part of this video, and quite honestly, I have no idea what's being said because when I imported the video, I just kind of deleted the audio. I knew I wasn't saying anything really important because when do I ever? And so I just deleted it, and apparently I thought I was really doing something, but I've met myself once or twice, and I know that I probably wasn't.